Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and it's the 9th of December 2022. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So some bittersweet personal news today. So it's come to an end, and what is it? EthHub. So EthHub has been sunsetted here, and EthHub was the educational resource that I co-founded with Eric Connor all the way back in late 2018. It was a documentation website for all things got to do with Ethereum. It was a podcast, and it was a newsletter. And Eric Connor, my co-founder here, put out a little tweet thread today announcing that it was being sunset and why. So basically, just a bit of background here. EthHub was the thing that kind of got me started with Ethereum more broadly. So as I said, it got founded in late 2018. I'd already been in Ethereum since early 2017, but I wasn't that public. I wasn't really doing anything directly in the ecosystem. I was more of an observer. I was still working at a non-crypto job, and yeah, it's just it's been a journey, that's for sure. It's definitely helped me a lot within the ecosystem, helped me get involved and build my network up. And I said here in my tweet, I said getting a bit emotional over this. EthHub was the springboard that launched my entire career in Ethereum, and without it, I don't know where I'd be. EthHub quite simply changed my life. Thanks to everyone who supported us, and thank you to Eric for being such a great co-founder. So I mean, I would say EthHub really did change my life, because as I said, before EthHub, I wasn't that involved with the community, but once EthHub launched, it started getting a lot of really great traction. We were documenting things like FUD that was being spread during the bear market for Ethereum and wanting to address that FUD. And then we started providing better documentation around things like how to run a full node, Ethereum's monetary policy, and that sort of stuff. And obviously with the newsletter that we were doing, it was a weekly newsletter called the EthHub Weekly newsletter. And I actually started that in early 2018 under a different name called the Block by Block newsletter. And then it became the EthHub newsletter, and then we did a podcast where we interviewed different guests in the ecosystem, and we also did a weekly recap of the newsletter on the podcast. And, it sounds maybe a little bit funny now saying that, but back then, there was basically no Ethereum media content. Bankless came soon after, but Bankless was quite small, right? It didn't start off as being the juggernaut that it is today. So you really just had a few podcasts here and there, but nothing really Ethereum focused, which is one of the reasons why EthHub came to be. But as time has gone on, EthHub, I guess, got obsoleted, so to speak, by different resources. So Ethereum.org was basically upgraded a couple of years ago, I believe. Underwent a massive upgrade where there was a bunch of resources added to it. It had a fresh redesign, and it was basically a lot better than what it was, because it was just basically hadn't been updated since 2015. And then obviously because of that, it was a lot of outdated information on there, but then they updated it and they put a team on it, they being the Ethereum Foundation, and it kind of obsoleted the EthHub documentation part of things to an extent. And then you also had the podcast and newsletter. I mean, there are so many media podcasts and newsletters these days, it kind of became a little bit redundant for us to keep doing it. And we obviously also reached different stages in our life. Eric had a kid, he's been focused on that. I've been more focused on the Daily Gwei, which launched mid-2020. And yeah, I've just continued with that basically. But yeah, it was a journey, that's for sure. I think that, as I said, it was that springboard that launched my Ethereum career. I owe everything to EthHub basically. And it is an emotional time to see it finally sunsetted here. But yeah, I mean, maybe Eric and I will do something new in the future. Who knows? I do want to still do a last hurrah podcast with him, a last EthHub podcast with him. Maybe we'll set that up sometime in the future. But for now, EthHub is no more. For me personally, it's just the Daily Gwei right now, and obviously all the angel investing and advising I do on the side. And for Eric, I'm looking forward to what he does next in the Ethereum community. I think he's been taking a bit of a break this year, focusing on his family, but maybe he comes back next year. He's still here. He's still pretty active on Twitter actually from time to time. It's always funny reading his spicy tweets. But yeah, just wanted to do a little bit of a recap there. And maybe some of you didn't even know that I was a co-founder of EthHub. Well, that was my first thing before Daily Gwei, but now it's Daily Gwei. So let's move on to I think what the biggest news of the last 24 hours in the Ethereum ecosystem is that there was an all-core devs call that basically agreed on the scope for Shanghai. So it's going to be staked ETH withdrawals, big EOF implementation, warm Coinbase, push 0, limit and meter init code, time-based EL forking, and get payload v2 and get load bodies by range. So basically, I guess really only two of those things on that list you really need to care about. But the person who put this tweet out, Christine Kim, actually says in her second tweet, she says, other than the first bullet, every other code change could be removed from Shanghai if devs think it would significantly delay a March 2023 activation date. So I have discussed before how staked ETH withdrawals are 100% coming in Shanghai. Like, that is completely locked in. There is pretty much no chance that that's going to be removed. I've said 99%. Locked in. You can never be, obviously 100% sure. Then there was that EOF stuff that I was talking about, all those different AIPs that come with that. That has been tentatively included, but I think if the core devs don't feel like it's in the place where it can be included by, I think, the end of Jan, they said, then it won't be included, because they are targeting a March/April release for Shanghai here. Now, you will notice that EIP 4844 isn't included, and, I did say that there was a low chance of it being included, and also at the same time, I did say that there was a bit of drama around this. So not all core devs are aligned on this. Some of them think that we should get 4844 in because users are clamoring for it. We really need scalability for layer 2s. We really need those cheaper fees. I don't disagree with that, but as I've stated before, I think right now users are not clamoring for 4844. I haven't seen really anyone mention it because fees are cheap enough on layer 2 for the people that are in the ecosystem right now. I put a very low chance of a bull market happening next year. And by bull market, I actually mean like 2021, because you can technically say bull market started in 2020, but in earnest, where we have a lot of new users coming in, I don't foresee that happening next year. Maybe it happens late next year, but definitely not early to mid. I'm happy to be wrong on that, of course, but I just don't see it happening, right? So that gives us more time to deploy 4844 later in the year. And on top of that as well, if it's not ready on the technical side of things, and if the core devs don't think it's ready to go in, then yeah, simply it's not going to go in. And the ones that push back were obviously the ones that are very heavily invested in seeing 4844 go live, which is totally fine. Like, I get that, and they're disappointed that it's not going live in Shanghai, but at this point in time, withdrawals are way more important than 4844. People are clamoring for this, and it is definitely something critical that needs to be delivered. And we need to stick to our social contract in Ethereum around this, where we basically said that withdrawals would be included in the first upgrade after the merge. And also timing, we want to get them done ASAP. As I've said before, if 4844 was also included here, they would probably delay the release of Shanghai probably by at least 3 months. So we would be looking at maybe a kind of June, July release instead of a March, April release here, which isn't too bad, but still that is approaching, almost I guess like it's 9-10 months after the merge. It is quite a long time. So we definitely want to get this out there ASAP here. And I don't have it handy, but Tim Baiko did a recap thread on the core dev call as well that you can go check out. But yeah, I mean, great to see that it has been agreed upon, and great to see that they're sticking with withdrawals being, kind of like enabled in Shanghai without going ahead with 4844. I think that is the right call, even though it's a tough one, even though it's something that has caused disappointment for core devs. I do think that for some core devs, I do think that it is the right call there. But yeah, great to see this, and I'll keep you guys posted on how all that comes along. All right, so the Protocol Guild's 1-year pilot just passed the halfway mark. So it is 6 months as of today, and they put together a thread on the last 6 months and what's next for the Protocol Guild. So basically, they've raised $9.7 million, which has been donated so far. The pilot was seeded with $8.8 million from Lido, Uniswap, ENS, Nouns, DAO, and Moloch DAO. Tokens, and you can see the list of tokens breakdown here. Average donation of just $2,500, median $12 from 3,500 total donations. Distributions, $5 million has already been distributed to members, and as you guys recall, the members include 128 Ethereum core contributors, and that is up from 90 at the start. On average, each member has received $39,000, which is awesome. $39,000 US, right? In the first 6 months. So if this is like the average, obviously I've said before that some members earn more than others, but if this is the average, it means that for the year, the average is about 80K, which is, and this is supplemental to the money that a lot of these core contributors are already making from other places, but that's like a really nice bonus for these core contributors. And I've said before, this is not the end state of the Protocol Guild. They're going to keep raising as much money as they can and paying this out to members and onboarding more members, obviously, over time. But I think that's great. For a pilot in the first 6 months, giving on average each member $39,000 is amazing to me. And especially for something that it's so new and there's so many members as well. So the most, and then they go on to say the most a single member has received is $79,000 while the lowest is $13,000. So as I said, there is a a kind of percentage that each member gets here based on their core contributions. So I would guess that the single member would be someone like Taiko, for example, obviously at the forefront of everything, one of the most active people in the Ethereum core development ecosystem, along with Danny Ryan as well. So if it is him, then I mean 100% deserved, right? I mean, he deserves way more than that for the amount of work that he's done, and amount of work that other people like him have done as well. And the lowest, I would assume, is some casual core contributor, but still they've gotten something for their efforts, which I think is amazing. So basically, the thread goes on for a little bit here, which you can read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But you guys know I'm an absolutely massive fan of the Protocol Guild. I've donated to it myself, and I plan to send all my RocketPool ODAO rewards to the Protocol Guild, once I start receiving them. So I'm looking forward to that as well, because I don't know exactly how much the rewards are. I kind of haven't looked into it too closely, but I know that they're not negligible, right? They're obviously paid out in RPL tokens, but I know that they will make a substantial difference to the Protocol Guild, substantial relative to the other things that I've donated, and I hope to continue doing that going forward. But if you are interested in donating, you literally don't have to ask anyone. There's no process to do it. You just donate to the Protocol Guild's Ethereum address, which I believe is stateful.eth, because it's made by Statefulworks. They should have it linked here somewhere. But basically, you can just donate to their Ethereum address. You literally do not have to do anything else. There's no process, there's no form, there's nothing like that. I don't think it's a tax write-off though, because it's not an officially registered charity, but that's not tax advice, but that's how it works here. I was talking to my accountant about this and saying, hey, like, I've donated, should I mark this down? I mean, I don't really care either way, but obviously you want to be as truthful as possible when you file your taxes. And he's like, no, you can't, because of it not being an officially registered charity, and blah blah blah. But yeah, definitely talk to your tax advisor about that as well. Maybe something that you're interested in. But yeah, check out this Protocol Guild thread. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so I've been talking about this a fair bit lately, but I finally put a tweet out on Twitter. And the reason I avoided putting a tweet out about this before was because I just couldn't be bothered with the drama and the replies. But there doesn't seem to be any drama, which was really positive. I was really heartened by that. But anyway, what I'm talking about is the OFAC compliant blocks. Now, this is total blocks on the Ethereum network, not just MEV boosted blocks. But I've discussed before how this topped out at 80% and is now trending down, and it's currently at 65%. And this is thanks to things like Flashbots open sourcing their relayer and builder infrastructure, more non-censoring relays coming online, relays accepting submissions from external builders, and people using Flashbots as min bid. And I've talked about all of this on the refill before, so I won't rehash it here. But I think if this trend continues and we can get below 50%, that's going to be an absolutely massive achievement. And obviously we want to get to as close as possible to 0%. I already think it's a big achievement here, but just think about it. August 8th was the sanctions, right? So August, September, October, November, December, right? 4 months, right? Yeah, it's 4 months. It's a bit just over 4 months today. So 4 months since the sanctions happened, and the problem obviously got to the point where it was at 80%. We have managed to reverse that trend with all of these things, and none of this required any protocol level work. And I remember how I said to you guys that there are protocol level things like PBS and other things like potentially the shutterized beacon chain, which I don't even believe is a protocol level change, and then other things that are even further beyond that, such as making the base layer private. But I remember saying that we don't actually need any of that. None of that is critical to rectifying this issue. What we needed, and the number two things that I mentioned at the time, was more non-censoring relayers and Flashbots open sourcing this extra infrastructure in order to give to provide a level playing field for these other relays. And both of those things have played out, and we got even better things like the Flashbots as min bid thing didn't actually exist until recently, right? And then relays accepting submissions from external builders, that's also really positive, and I think that's due to the pressure from something like this, right? The censorship concerns. So if we can get this trend down, if we can get this number down as much as possible and just keep reversing that trend, it's going to be extremely positive for the Ethereum ecosystem, and I think that it's going to send a strong signal that the Ethereum ecosystem can tackle the hardest problems that get thrown at it. Because I do believe that the OFAC sanctions is the hardest problem Ethereum has ever had to face in terms of its social legitimacy, in terms of testing its credible neutrality, and obviously the merge was a bigger undertaking for the developers to get delivered. But I think, as I said, in terms of like protecting Ethereum's credible neutrality and its social standing in the space, reversing the trend here is incredibly important. So I'm super excited to see that. But you can always check out these stats for yourself at the mevwatch.info website. All right, so Superfizz shared today that lower Ether balance or LEB mini pools are on the way to RocketPool potentially in February 2023. They're currently under audit, but when they're released, you'll be able to launch a mini pool with 8 ETH and support with 24 ETH. Check out the RocketPool Discord to keep up. This is great. I've talked about this for a while on the refuel before. I've said how that like the lower we can get this minimum requirement for spinning up mini pools, the better. Because obviously, you know, if you don't have 16 ETH right now, you can't spin up a mini pool, but maybe you have like 10 ETH. Well, with 8 ETH, when this change goes in, you can spin up a mini pool. And then, well, okay, what if you have 10 ETH and they lower it to 4 ETH? They lower the requirement to 4 ETH. Well, you can now spin up 2 mini pools, right? And then you can get a lot of support for RETH out of this as well. So this works as a way to essentially grow RocketPool better than anything else, I believe, and getting these mini pools spun up and getting more people to stake with RocketPool rather than staking with a centralized provider. And obviously, this isn't the only thing that we need to be doing here. We need to be obviously making it easier for people to spin up mini pools, which a lot of work has gone into already. I've gone on about how when setting up the mini pool myself, the documentation was absolutely perfect, right? I shouldn't say perfect, nothing's perfect, but it was really, really great, right? And I really enjoyed following along with it and all that sorts of stuff there. But yeah, just great to see that this is coming as early as Feb 2023, lowering the minimum from 16 ETH to 8 ETH, and hopefully even lower than that in the future. All right, so Obol Labs put out a tweet thread today where they said, in order to perform aggregation duties as a distributed validator, validated clients need to be able to determine together when they should aggregate. We have been working with key consensus layer stakeholders for a non-intrusive, non-breaking solution to this, and they discuss the solution in the thread, but also the blog post here, and the thread isn't kind of long here, but the solution is basically, as I describe here, currently a selection proof generated by a validator with only a subset of the private key results in an incorrect determination of whether the validator should produce an aggregation. To rectify this, a validator client needs to be given a combined selection proof signed by a threshold of the cluster in order to correctly determine its aggregation duties. And basically what Obol is proposing is to add 2 beacon API endpoints that allow VCs or validator clients to ask their middleware DV client for a combined selection proof by providing a partial selection proof. This step in the flow is only required when a validator client is running as part of a distributed validator, and you can learn more by reading the blog post. So you can see the diagram here of how this would work and how this would benefit Obol, which I'll link in the YouTube description below for you to do so. But this is really cool that I guess like they've been able to rectify this issue. Otherwise, this wouldn't work on mainnet, right? So great to see them doing this and working with the relevant stakeholders to get this done. But as I said, if you want to learn more about this and how it all works, you can check out the blog post and the tweet thread, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. All right, something I just wanted to highlight quickly here is an staking FAQ that has been put together by the EthStaker and community, and Iridian shared this on Twitter today, so you can basically go check this out. It is very comprehensive, so if you've got a bunch of questions around Ethereum staking and everything that is involved with that, you can go check out this FAQ, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. But yeah, just wanted to highlight that for you guys, because you guys do ask me a lot of questions about Ethereum staking, and I know generally you have a lot of questions about them, whenever something new pops up about it, especially. So you can go read this FAQ. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. And last up here on the, staking front, we have something that Teku is developing right now, which they're calling Sentry beacon nodes. So basically, as it exists right now, there is an attack vector for, on validators, because you can actually see ahead of time when a validator is going to produce a block, right? So this opens up an attack vector, which is a DOS vector. So a DOS attack on a validator's beacon node can cause the validator to miss its block proposal, thereby losing the block proposal reward. You can mitigate this by using Sentry nodes, and you can read about what Sentry nodes is here in their little in the documentation here. But this issue I've talked about before on the refuel. Basically, there are different ways to mitigate it. Obviously, you can have DOS protection on your nodes, which isn't cheap, and if it's a massive DOS attack, obviously it gets quite expensive, and even then it may not even work to stop this from happening, and you only really have one chance, and the attacker only needs to do this until you miss your block proposal, then they can stop, right? And then also there was SSLE, which man, I'm gonna mess up the what it stands for here, but I believe it stands for secret single leader election, or single secret leader election. Well, basically what it does is it makes it so that you can't actually know the block proposals ahead of time, which would obviously remedy this, but it wouldn't prevent you from getting DOSed altogether, right? It would just prevent someone from wanting to DOS you because they know you're going to propose a block. Whereas what the Sentry beacon nodes do is that it allows you to protect you against DOS attacks, but also protect you against DOS attacks due to someone knowing that you're going to be a future block proposal. But I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can go check this out for yourself. All right, so something I wanted to highlight out of Coinbase today, which is an announcement they made where they said, switch to a trusted stablecoin, USDC. Now convert USDT to USDC on Coinbase with 0 fees. And it's funny because it seems like the stablecoin wars are really heating up now, because Binance has been doing this recently with their BUSD stablecoin, where they were offering, I believe, 0 fee trading from both Tether and USDC. Well, now Coinbase is hitting back and saying, hey, go convert your Tether to USDC with 0 fees on their platform. And the way they're doing it is quite funny, because they said, switch to a trusted stablecoin. So I don't think Coinbase has any special insight as to what the goings on of Tether itself is. But what they're doing here is they're actually playing on the fact that people don't generally trust Tether, right? So they're saying you switch to a trusted stablecoin because you can actually trust USDC, at least you can trust it way more than you can trust Tether. Now, I'm not one of those Tether truthers who thinks that Tether is a massive Ponzi or a massive scam or anything like that, but I mean, they're much less transparent than Circle is with USDC. So I personally don't hold Tether. I don't really use Tether. I much prefer to use DAI when possible. And obviously, if I have to use a centralized stablecoin, I use USDC over Tether here. I don't use BUSD, but I think BUSD is even more legit than Tether because it is issued by Paxos, which is a US registered company, which has constant audits on them, and they are obviously regulated in the US as well. So you can to me, you could trust BUSD and USDC more than Tether, but Tether is obviously still very popular. People believe that it's legit. It has a huge market cap. It's still the biggest stablecoin, I believe. But yeah, this vampire attack, so to speak, on Tether, yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how this goes, right? Like converting your Tether to USDC on Coinbase with 0 fees, and then obviously, with Binance doing their BUSD conversion, free conversions, I'm wondering what Tether's dominance is going to look like in the next 6 to 12 months. We're going to have to see if they remain the top dog or if their dominance gets eroded because they have 2 of the largest exchanges in the world basically trying to, I guess, get market share for their own stablecoin. All right, so a quick little blog post here from Taiko today. So there's the 3rd community update has arrived, and there's a thread about this as well, but it's a short blog post. You can go give it a read. It's just a bunch of dot points with links to read about other things, but I wanted to highlight this for you guys. Just a refresher, what Taiko is building is a Type 1 ZK EVM for Ethereum here, but yeah, you can go check out this update. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, another L2 news. Espresso Systems announced today that they have launched a CAPE on the Arbitrum testnet. So what is CAPE? Well, CAPE is a custom privacy solution, and they've launched on top of Arbitrum here to offer low fees. And this is on the Arbitrum testnet, not the Arbitrum mainnet right now. But by using CAPE, a digital asset creator can define viewing policies for their assets concerning any of the following data: sender and receiver addresses, the amount of an asset sent, received, and held, the type of asset being sent, received, and held. So basically, I guess what CAPE provides is a way to is a way for asset creators, or I guess like token creators, to configure the amount of privacy that they want on their assets on Ethereum, and then also define policies around freezing policies, offering asset creators like stablecoin providers to the ability to retain controls of addresses, to address fraud, theft, and dispute resolution. So this is basically going back to that regulated token standard that people were talking about a few months ago, or maybe a couple of months ago now. And I kind of pushed back on it, saying that we shouldn't build it on the existing standards. We should build new standards that people can opt into using. And that's exactly what CAPE seems to be like to me, is basically building on top of the existing standards with building on top of the existing standards, but also creating their own new ones that people can play around with and configure to their heart's content here. So very cool to see this. You can check out their documentation, which I'll link in the YouTube description below, to get more information about this and play around with it on the Arbitrum testnet. All right, so Ryan Wyatt here from Polygon Studios announced today that the Starbucks and Polygon journey has officially begun. Starbucks Odyssey members will use their Starbucks rewards login to access the beta experience. As stamps are collected, members' points total will increase, unlocking access to unique benefits. So I've talked about this before and how Starbucks and Polygon teamed up to do this Starbucks Odyssey thing here. The reason I still think it's cool is the same reason I thought it was cool when I talked about it a couple months ago. It's bringing like the outside world into crypto, right? It's creating that bridge. And something like this doesn't have to be like super decentralized or anything like that, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be decentralized at all, to be honest, right? I mean, it's really just a loyalty program that is built on crypto rails, to issue things like NFTs and to play around with the crypto rails, to do different things on there. So I think it's a really cool way to bridge the existing world into crypto, and it's an existing large business as well. Starbucks is not some small cafe, right? It's some small corner cafe. They are a massive global brand, especially obviously in the US. Starbucks kind of failed here in Melbourne because we have such good coffee that no one wanted to go to Starbucks. I think there's like one store in the city, one Starbucks that I've seen in the city before, and it was kind of like not really that busy from time to time. But in the US, they love Starbucks, right? Like when I went to the US, there was Starbucks everywhere. So obviously a huge brand and a huge win for Polygon to get this partnership. But yeah, you can read more information about this. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so speaking of Coinbase, just before, they have enabled eligible Coinbase customers to send and receive ETH, DAI, and WBTC on the Optimism network. So just more support here for layer 2s on Ethereum from big centralized exchanges. I don't know what eligible Coinbase customers means. I wonder if they define that here. Is this the blog here? Yeah, so I don't think it's even... Okay, so apparently it hasn't started. Oh, wait, no, this is funny. They're linking to a blog post here from June of 2022. So have they updated this blog post about the Optimism integration here? No, I'm not sure. But they basically linked maybe to the wrong blog post here. But I don't know what eligible Coinbase customers means. Maybe it just means Coinbase customers in the US. I don't know. Maybe you have to have a certain amount of money or trades done on Coinbase. I don't know what the criteria is here. If you do know, be sure to tell me in the YouTube comments or on Discord. But again, just great to see these centralized exchanges supporting the L2s. And I think at this point, I mean, like, support the L2s or die, basically. Like, the L2s are going to be bigger than Ethereum L1. They're going to have much more activity on them. So the centralized exchanges really need to integrate them. And it seems like they are doing it, which I really love to see. All right, so Slingshot announced yesterday that the wait is over. Slingshot Wallet Open Beta is now live and available to everyone on the Google Play App Store. So if you have an Android device and you don't need to opt in to use a Slingshot Wallet anymore, you can go to the Google Play App Store, search Slingshot Wallet on there, and enter into the open beta yourself. So for those of you who have used Slingshot Wallet already and have I guess been part of the beta and opted into it, you'll know how sleek it is. Like, I've been playing around with it. It's very, very sleek. I actually really love it. It's a really cool wallet, and it obviously hooks into the Slingshot exchange for a really good trading experience as well. And I should basically disclaim here that I am an investor in Slingshot, so I'm not just shilling them because I'm an investor. It's genuinely a good product, and I genuinely think that you guys should check it out. So definitely do so if you have an Android device here. You can go on the Google Play Store. All right, so to end today's episode and heading into the weekend, a bit of a bullish rant. Haven't done one of these in a little while, but I put a tweet out today where I said, if Ethereum was still on proof of work, net new issuance of ETH since the merge would have been around 1 million ETH. So we finally hit that 1 million mark there. Instead, net new ETH issuance is just 2,600 ETH, a 99.75% reduction. This is ultrasound money. And then I continued and said, obviously the price of ETH has done nothing good since the merge, though if we had issued that 1 million ETH to miners, actually more if you don't count the burn, I think the price of ETH would easily be at new lows, being below $880 here. When demand comes back, I expect ETH to benefit greatly. None of this is new. I've talked about this a lot on the refuel before, but I think I just wanted to point out the fact is that I did say that the price of ETH has done nothing good since the merge, but that's not entirely accurate. It's done nothing good against USD, obviously, but that's on the upside. On the downside, the reduction in issuance has protected ETH from going much lower than than it otherwise has, right? And I truly do believe that there is no way in hell that 1 million ETH that went to miners, right, wouldn't have been sold. Maybe some of it wouldn't be sold, but a lot of it would have been sold because miners on the Bitcoin side were capitulating. I believe that's a strong reason why Bitcoin actually went to new lows and ETH didn't. But ETH would be right there with them, if not lower, and the ETH BTC ratio would be much more destroyed if it wasn't for that. And also, the ETH price has, since the merge against ETH BTC, has been really steady, right, and has actually gone up. So I think comparing it to USD on the upside is the wrong comparison because we're in a bear market. Comparing it to USD on the downside and also against other assets like BTC is the right comparison here. And if you compare it like that, the issuance reduction has definitely done its job. And, it only takes a little bit of burn to burn this 2,600 ETH, and then we're back to 100% reduction, and then even more when we go net negative. So yeah, just a little mini bullish rant for today. But on that, I'm going to end it there, but also just a reminder that there is an AMA happening tomorrow. As I said, I'm going to just record the episode and put it on YouTube. So expect an AMA recording from me tomorrow on YouTube and also on the podcast as well. But don't forget to get your questions in. You have, from when the refuel goes live, you have maybe like 12 to 16 hours, depending on when I record it. Go into the Discord channel, go into the AMA series channel in there, ask the question, I'll get it answered for you. But on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all next week. Thanks everyone.